This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Versions. Versions are amazing and you can actually toggle them on with a click of one super simple small little button over on the Fusion page. And they can be used to create a single reusable asset which sits over on the edit page that contains up to 6 different presets or versions. Now, creating your own presets or assets within Davinci Resolve is kind of essential in my opinion for all of you online content creators because they can just save you so much time, and enabling versions just makes them even better. So in this video, I'm going to run you through the entire process of creating a few different types of assets with versions. We're going to start off super simple with a basic title and then get slightly more complicated as we go, but we'll be keeping it super beginner friendly all the way through. So first up, let's take a look at a text plus title with versions enabled. Hey. So here we are on the edit page. Now the first thing you need to do, open up the effects library, come down to titles, and we need to grab a text plus and then just drop that on your timeline like so. Give it a right click and then open in the Fusion page. And then you'll be taken to Fusion. You should see your nodes down here. If you don't, simply click on nodes in the top left hand corner. And if you give template a click, open up the inspector, top right hand corner, you should see all of the same standard text plus controls that you're used to from the edit page. Now the first thing you need to do, at the very top right hand corner, there's this small little icon. If you give it a click, that will enable versions. And you can see we've got versions 1 to 6 at the top. Then all you need to do is to customize all of the versions that you want. And you can use all of the text plus controls. So I'm going to keep it real simple. I'm just going to create a MrAlexTech and we'll maybe change the font. And if we go to shading, let's go to number 3 and just enable that so we get a black drop shadow. If I'm happy with that, let's go to number 2. We'll start from the same place, and let's say this one is going to be a subscribe button. We'll go to, let's say, layout, and we'll move this down here to the bottom left-hand corner. And we're going to make this much, much smaller, and just customize it as you need to. Let's just really quickly go to shading. I'm going to go to number 2 and enable the red outline. And just a bonus tip here. If you come down to the appearance and click on this one here, which is a border fill, you get a rough sort of red outline. Then change the character level to text. And then you can increase the vertical and the horizontal and around the corners. And you've got yourself a super simple red and white subscribe button. If we wanted a third option, we could click on number 3 and again, just customize it as we need to. If we now go back to number 1, here's my number 1, number 2, number 2. If you've created a version you don't want, go to one of the other versions. So I'm going to go on to number 1 because I want to delete number 3. Then if I right click on number 3 and click clear, we can get rid of that. So we've just got versions 1 and 2. Create as many of these as you like. And then once you're done, we simply need to save this. So we're going to come to our template down within our nodes, right click, settings, and then save as. Now you don't need to save this anywhere particular just yet. So just save it in a simple, easy to access location. So I've created a folder on my desktop called versions, and we're just going to temporarily save it within there. What you do need to do though is to make sure you give it a file name. So at the bottom, it says template. We're going to change that to just call it alextitles.setting. And then we're simply going to hit save. Now stay within Fusion, open the effects library, top left-hand corner, expand templates, expand edit, and then click on titles. Then you just need to open up that folder outside of Davinci Resolve. So I've got this folder here, and I've got my Alex titles, and then we just need to drag that over to this big list of titles right here. After a few seconds, Fusion should refresh like so. And if you was to search this big list, you should find the Alex titles. Now at this point, I like to also stay organized by creating folders. So once you've imported that title, still within this template edit titles area, you'll see 3 little dots in the top right hand corner. Give that a click and click on show folder. And the actual permanent location for those settings files will appear. And you can see it's automatically copied my Alex titles across. So now I can simply create a new folder. Call this whatever I like. I'm just going to call this demo for now. You can see I've already made some in the past. Yours will probably be empty. And then I can move my Alex titles into this demo folder just to stay nice and organized. Then we can jump back over to the edit page within Davinci Resolve. So we're back on the edit page. I'm going to delete this text plus. Within the effects library, titles, you can now see I've got a folder called demo. And within there, I have my Alex titles, and I can just drop that straight into my timeline. We've got my versions 1 and 2, my MrAlexTech, and then my little subscribe button. If you've created more, you'll see all of them within there, and they're all good to go. Quick note, if you don't see the folder and the MrAlex titles or whatever you called it, if it hasn't imported, try restarting Davinci Resolve, and that usually pulls them through. See? Super easy. Now the next one we're going to take a look at is a background color generator. This is actually something I use all the time. Whenever working with brands, it's really handy to have a single asset you drop on your timeline, and you can really quickly change to predetermined colors, especially if the brand that you're working with have got actual colors and you need to enter the hex code and all that sort of stuff. This can save you loads of time. Now it is a little bit more complicated than using the text plus, because we need to repeat ourselves a few times and we need to create a macro, but once you get used to the process, it's honestly not too bad, and you do only have to do this once. But before we do, real quick message from this video sponsor, Squarespace. You all know Squarespace by now, right? It's the all-in-one platform to grow your online business. Whether you need a website to showcase your portfolio, sell your physical or digital products in an online store, or even arrange one-to-one consultations with the built-in scheduling tools, Squarespace has everything you need all in one place. Plus, super easy to use, which is always a bonus, and there's loads of great templates to pick from and customize to your liking. So if you fancy checking out Squarespace for yourself, simply head over to squarespace.com/MrAlexTech, link down below to start your free trial. And when you're ready to launch, you can save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain using the code MrAlexTech at checkout. Sweet. So for background colors, this time we're going to use a Fusion composition. So same thing, we're on the edit page, we're going to open up effects, toolbox. This time we're going to go to effects, and we're going to grab a Fusion composition and just pop it on our timeline like so. We're going to right click, and then we're going to open in the Fusion page. Now this time you'll just see this one media out node like so. Now we only need one additional node to create this, so it's really simple. On this little menu bar right in the middle, all these little shortcuts, go to the far left and you'll see the background node. Drag that onto your nodes and then release your mouse, and then grab the little box at the end and bring it over to your media out to link them up like so. So now you can see we have this black background within our preview window, and within the inspector we've got our solid color controls. Now you can't actually enable versions just yet. What you need to do is to create a macro, re-import the macro, and then we can enable versions, which is slightly odd, but again, you'll get used to the process. So all we need to do is right click on this background one, go to macro, and then create macro. And this macro editor will appear. First thing you need to do, give this a name. So I'm just going to call this Alex BGs. And then you need to tick all of the boxes to things you want access to on the edit page. Now it sounds really complicated and it looks a bit crazy, but honestly, it's not too bad. You can still actually click around Fusion, so you can still sort of mooch around and see all of the things that you want. We're on background one, we're on this color tab, and we basically want everything on this color tab. So background one, let's minimize this image, and we've got the color tab, and then we've got all of the color controls here. So all we're going to do is just spend a moment ticking all of these boxes, because we want access to all of these controls so we can set loads of fun little colors for our backgrounds. Once you're done, click on File in the top left-hand corner and then go to Save As. And then you need to just save this. Well, you can save it anywhere really, but I'm going to save it in the same place I did before. Desktop, Versions, Alex BGs, and then Save. Then we can close this box. And then what we need to do is just re-import this in. So it's slightly different. I'm going to delete my background one node. We're going to grab that new Alex BGs, and then we're going to drop it onto our nodes like so and connect it up. So this AlexBGs is now our macro. Now at this point, we can enable versions. So now we have our 1 to 6 versions, and now we can create all of our different background colors. So I'm on number 1 at the moment. If I click on my color picker, I can choose a different color. If I have the hex, the HTML codes, I can enter them in there if it's for a brand or whatever. I'm just going to go with the yellow. Then we're going to go to number 2. And if we want, this one could be a horizontal gradient. And then number 3 could be a 4-corner gradient. And again, we can come and change all the colors. Do whatever we want to create 6 different backgrounds. If you wanted to get super fancy, you could animate things and do all sorts of fun stuff. Once you're happy, you then just repeat the same process we did for the Text Plus, i.e. right-click the AlexBGs, Settings, Save As. We go to our versions folder. I'm actually going to overwrite this original AlexBGs because we don't actually need that anymore. So I'm just going to hit Save, and then we're going to open up the Effects library, Templates, Edit, and we're actually going to make this background picker a title because titles are really easy to work with. You can apply effects to titles and you can apply transitions as well. So within titles, I've got that demo folder I created. So let's grab my AlexBGs and we're going to drop it within there. Perfect. We'll jump over to the edit page. We'll delete this Fusion comp off our timeline. Within the effects library, titles, demo. Mine hasn't pulled through this time for some reason. So BRB. Let me restart Davinci Resolve, and we're back. So now we'll go titles, demo, AlexBGs has pulled through, drop it on our timeline. Within the inspector, I've got my 1, 2, and 3. Now a bonus tip here, if 6 versions isn't enough, we can at any point click on this little icon in the top right hand corner, this little magic wand, to jump into Fusion with our AlexBGs. And then we could create 6 new versions and then repeat the same process. Call it AlexBGs 2, for example. The original one will remain, and then we'll have a second one, which we can do whatever we want with. Cool, not too bad, right? Now our friend Casey Farris has recently done some really great tutorials showing you how to create some really snazzy looking backgrounds on the Fusion page. So I've linked those down below. Definitely go and check them out. Now next up, we're going to create this. This is a very simple sort of cutout using a transform node with a drop shadow. We're going to use a couple of nodes, package it into a macro, export it, re-import it, then enable the version so you can have this anywhere on the screen with different settings with the versions. So we're back on the edit page for one final time, and this time I've actually set up a bit of a demo. I've got the footage on top, which is going to be my sort of cutout, and then we've got some general footage underneath. So we can actually do this directly on the footage itself. So I've got my face cam footage. I'm going to right click and we're going to open in the Fusion page. We've got our 2 nodes, media in 1 and then media out 1 as well. So for this one, we're going to use 2 different things. We're going to use a transform node and then a simple drop shadow. So the easiest way to do this, click on your media in 1, so it's highlighted in red, and then hit Shift and space to open up the select tool picker thingy like this. And you want to find the transform node, but it's not this transform XF we need, it's this transform underneath that one, and then hit add, and it'll drop it straight onto there like so. We use this transform because the tools are really handy. So we've got things like zoom, so we can zoom this in and out, we can change the position, we can rotate, change the pitch, all that sort of fun stuff. But if we come to this image adjustment, there's an edge rounding, so we can just increase that to round off our corners. If we go all the way, it's a circle, or we can have some different shapes. So I'm going to go right to the end, and we've got a nice little circular cutout. If we click on our transform 1, so we've got this node selected, it's highlighted in red, shift and space once again to select our tool picker thingy, and this time I'm going to search for drop shadow. We'll add that. Now we've got a drop shadow as well, and we have all of our drop shadow controls. Now we just repeat the exact same process we did before. So the first thing we need to do is to turn this into a macro. So I'm going to highlight both my transform 1 and my drop shadow. We're going to right click, macro, create macro. This is going to be called like cutout with shadow, something like that. And then once again, we just tick the boxes of the things we need. So transform 1, I probably want all of these, and then that rounding. So we got controls, position X, zoom, pitch, yaw, flip. Do I need crops? Probably not. We'll come down to just go softness and rounding, and that will do us nicely. If we keep scrolling down, we've got drop shadow. Drop shadow, we want, wow, all of those actually, controls. We're just going to tick all of those boxes. Probably don't need to go right to the bottom, but we've ticked them all anyway, so there you go. Now we can go to File, Save As. We'll put it in this temporary folder, cut out with shadow, and then save. Close this box. We'll delete these 2 nodes. Grab our brand new cutout with shadow macro, which is now just one singular thing. Perfect. And we have all of our controls, so we can zoom this in and out, and we can change the drop shadow stuff. So now, at this point, we make our versions. Enable our versions. This one's going to be like a small version in the bottom left-hand corner. Number 2 is going to be a bigger version in the center. But let's take the roundness down a bit, maybe add a bit of softness, add a much stronger shadow. Do whatever, customize all 6. Because this exists as a macro, it's easy now. We simply right-click, settings, save as. We can overwrite the existing one. Save. Yes, we do. Then we go to template. Now this one isn't a title, so we just go to template, edit, effects this time around. Grab my cutout with shadow, drop it on there. Give Fusion a second to refresh. If we want to stay organized, we can click on our 3 little dots in the top right-hand corner and then show folder. We've got my cutout with shadow. So again, let's do a new folder, drop that in there. Let's jump directly straight back to the edit page and see if it's worked. Let's delete that footage and we're just going to bring it back on once again. And then we're going to go to the toolbox, effects, demo, cutout with shadow, drop it on my footage, boom, it's transformed. We've got our rounded edges and we've got our drop shadow. Within the inspector, effects, we've got versions 1, 2, and we could have up to 6. And once again, if 6 isn't enough, we jump directly over to the Fusion page, cutout with shadow, amend all 6 once again, right click, settings, save as, give it a different name, repeat the process, and job done. Assets with versions. And that's it. 3 different styles of assets with versions enabled. If you get any ideas for these sort of assets you want to create with versions, let me know down below. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. I'll catch you next time.